The history of the Mayan people, although full of uncertainties, contains valuable lessons on proper management of agriculture. But how could such an advanced civilization collapse so easily? This is an important question this video aims to explore. Throughout the video, we will look at two astronomically popular Mayan misconceptions. The one being that the Mayan people were one large nation, as it was the Aztecs, and were actually grouped together. The other one was that they were so primitive that they were not advanced enough in their technological expertise. These were both in fact false, and will help us understand both Mayan agriculture and how such a civilization can collapse. To assist in the first misconception of the Mayan people, we must look at two ingredients in Mayan history. First is that their prime crop ingredient was corn. Lame. I'm just kidding, but corn itself had very low protein, which made it very impossible to sustain large groups of people. The second is that the Mayans lacked animal transportation. Unlike their Aztec counterparts, who had the llama, the Mayans had to rely on foot travel in order to transport supplies and food. Now I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine you're walking through very rugged mountainous terrain, carrying a lot of corn. Now, so much corn that it's enough corn to feed yourself for a week's journey there and a week's journey back. As well, you're carrying enough corn to feed the people that you're shipping the corn to. This is exactly what the Mayan porter had to do. Since the Mayans lacked animal travel, a single person would have to carry this amount of corn and survive the journey in order for the Mayan population to survive. Now, many soldiers, while out on raids during battle, would actually run out of food and supplies and have to turn back. Imagine that. This lack of efficiency war disallowed nations to expand to larger sizes. The end result of these last two scenarios meant the Mayan people were like a series of islands, with long expanses of sea between each nation. Echo, echo, echo. But what of their technology and agriculture? What lessons could the Mayans, a people dating back as far as BC, before comedy, teach farmers today about the dangers of the land? Perhaps the most important example of Mayan agricultural expertise would be the nation known as Copan. Now, Copan was like other Mayan nations, a small nation but split into two. This split of highland and lowland people would become the lesson that we were looking for. Now, it was like this: two nations of the same people of Copan, one low, the other high. The lowland Copan people equaled agricultural prosperity, whereas the highlands Copan people equaled their demise. Now for what happened. Picture this: 5 plots of beautiful, fertile land to the disposal of the lowland Copans. The lowland Copans were prospering. Holla. However, like any nation under prosperity, something begins to implode. That something is population. The Mayans exploded in population and thus needed to move somewhere. And so, many of the Mayans moved north towards the highlands hills. However, these hills were found with heavy forest patches for which the Mayans had to deal with. A technique we know today as slash and burn agriculture was used. However, this caused problems for both the highland people and the lowland neighbors. Corn grown here, corn grown there, corn grown here, and then you guessed it, corn grown there. The Mayans would quickly realize that the corn itself produces extremely low yield, and thus they would have to increase the productivity of corn. Unlike today, where we would normally allow the land to recover during long fallow periods, the Mayans would have to use as much land as possible in as little time as possible. A massacre, such as you would find in the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Mayan people cleared out all the trees. They overused the land, and as such, the highlands eroded at substantial rates. Thus, all the bad soil of the highlands fell onto the good soil of the lowlands, and both nations suffered as a result. But let us leave behind the horrors of what once was, and focus on the offers that reign into today. And I promise that the Mayans were agricultural geniuses. For despite a spongy-like soil covering the majority of Mayan land, Mayan agricultural technology held on. This sponge, and not SpongeBob, was called karst, but unlike a thick sponge, and very much like clay, which would normally hold water within its guillotine-like grip, the water would drop to the very depths of hell, or at least to an unattainable depth. By pouring a cementitious slab, the Mayans were able to counterbalance the dropping effects of that, at times, pesky Mother Nature, and hold the waters at a more attainable depth. But let us also remember that split in the nation of Copan, where the Mayans were forced, like Ayamander once said, to run to the hills. Now, since the slash and burn agriculture would clear-cut dense foliage, erosion would indeed incur. In an act to once again thwart Mother Nature, as the Mayans so loved to do, they retained terracing used in stone-built walls. But this posed yet another problem, as if the Mayans did not face enough of those already. Rainwater would become trapped and quite literally drown the crops, in an act of drainage, and not unlike the genius engineers of the Roman Empire at around the same time. Note, there was likely no connection between these two ancient civilizations. The Mayans structured underground canals which would drain excess water. But where would this water go, one would ask? To their lowland neighbors, perhaps? Just another thought, as we remember just how friendly the highland Copan people were to their close lowland neighbors. When we think about the Mayan people and their agricultural prowess, a couple of key words come to mind. These are adversity, caution, and perhaps most important of all, innovation. For despite their creative geniuses in agriculture, the Mayans were in themselves victims. Corn and lack of animal travel, and ultimately, in the case of Copan, victims of themselves. But if we can take one key lesson from studies of the Mayans, is that despite what we were given, and regardless of the part of the world we live, in place and in time, as a nation, we pull through regardless and find a way to overcome. This in itself is what made the Mayans such a fascinating and inspirational civilization. And perhaps with today's own climate disasters, this ability to come together as a nation becomes all that more important in the present day. Thank you for watching, and remember to take care of yourself and your neighbors.